You're not here by chance. This video didn't just appear for someone distracted. It shows up when something inside you begins to awaken. Thoth, the divine scribe, doesn't share his secrets with just anyone. He reveals himself only when the soul is truly prepared. If this message has reached you now, it's because the time has come for you to remember who you really are. For thousands of years, this knowledge was hidden in symbols, tucked away in rituals, and lost to entire civilizations. But now, it's available again, and you're about to discover why some will ignore it, others will feel drawn to it, and only those ready will bring it into reality. Magic is not mere illusion. It's the ancient Egyptian art of mastering unseen forces, making the invisible inevitable. What if I told you there's a power behind everything created, seen or unseen? Thoth is the silent mediator of this force. The ancient Egyptians did not believe the world came about by accident. To them, nothing happened without reason. Nothing was formed without intent. Before creation, there was thought, and before that thought could become real, someone had to translate it into words. That's where Thoth comes in. He wasn't just a scribe recording the gods' wishes. He was the living symbol of sacred language, the bridge between ideas and existence. On the Shabaka stone, one of the oldest Egyptian theological records, there's a fascinating detail. While Adam's heart created the desire for creation, it was the tongue, symbolized by Thoth, that gave shape to that desire. The heart imagines, the tongue brings it forth. Thoth embodies this link between the invisible and the visible, between what hasn't yet come to be and what is beginning to exist. Here's something interesting. When Egyptians spoke of creation, they didn't call it magic. They spoke of rhythm, order, and balance. Nothing was created chaotically. Everything followed a certain frequency. Thoth was the guardian of that frequency, which is why he was also the god of time, not the clock time we chase, but sacred time, the perfect moment when truth is born and the soul awakens. Can you understand how profound that is? To them, speaking was a spiritual act. Every word was a divine alignment. Every sound invited the invisible to become matter. And all of this was represented by Ibis, a bird living on quiet shores, connected to the moon and wisdom, watching calmly without rushing. It's no coincidence that the moon measures time in cycles. Just like the awakening mind goes through layers, phases, and returns. Thoth wasn't a god of instant answers. He watched your thoughts before they turned into choices, listened to your words before they shaped your fate, and whispered when you finally found inner silence. This is what ancient initiates understood. It wasn't enough to think or desire. You had to align intention, words, timing, and consciousness. Only when everything is in harmony does reality respond. Thoth was silently recording everything, every misalignment, every adjustment, every moment the being lost itself, and every moment it found itself again. What few realize is that this pattern isn't locked away in ancient myths. It's alive inside you now. The same structure the Egyptians saw in the cosmos exists in your mind, your speech, your vibration. Creation was never distant. It's always been deeply personal. But if Thoth was the one who made divine thoughts manifest, how can an ordinary person access this sacred architecture? How can that same structure of manifestation be activated inside you, here and now? The word that creates the verb is a conscious force. This is where things get even deeper. When we say Thoth was the bridge between thought and reality, it's not just a poetic idea. It's a real spiritual vibration mechanism. You know the phrase from the Gospel of John, "In the beginning was the Word." That didn't start in Christianity. It echoes something the Egyptians knew thousands of years earlier. For them, the Word wasn't just a word. It was a living principle, a force that doesn't merely describe, but creates. Here's the part many miss. A word isn't just a sound or something spoken. The word is vibration, a subtle form of living geometry. It carries rhythm, intention, frequency, meaning, and above all, consequence. In ancient Egypt, everything was measured by cosmic harmony. Thoth's role was to record the movements of universal order, what they called Maat, ensuring nothing fell out of balance. But this order wasn't imposed from outside. It was born from the alignment between intention and expression. Simply wanting or feeling something wasn't enough. It had to align with the vibration of the word. Thoth didn't just write stories. He encoded what lay beneath them. He saw the invisible source behind the visible world. He noted the spiritual weight of every choice, every spoken sound, every thought turned into language, because he knew all creation begins with the word, but not just any word, the living word carrying conscious intent. That's why in ancient initiations, before disciples could learn magic, they had to learn silence first. The power of the word is serious. Used unconsciously, it can destroy. Used with awareness, it can manifest. Now pause and think. How many words do you speak each day without realizing their impact? How often do you say things like, "My life is hard," "Nothing ever works out for me," or "I'm unlucky"? How many times do you repeat phrases that seem harmless but actually program your vibration like a reversed spell? Do you see it? You're not just talking, you're creating. Every sentence plants a seed, and the universe, responsive by nature, doesn't react to what you want, but to what you vibrate. Thoth understood this perfectly. He didn't judge desires. He simply recorded vibrations because the universe doesn't operate on worthiness, but on coherence. What you say with truth, presence, and inner alignment finds a response. What you say out of habit, without soul or attention, becomes noise. And noise within a living system creates imbalance. That's why many people live in conflict with their own reality. They say things that vibrate differently from what they desire, act against their beliefs, and manifest what they fear most, then blame the world. But it's not the world. It's the word, the frequency coming from within them, shaping everything. Now imagine, what if you began to see every word as a creative act? What if you treated your speech like a ritual? What if you realized the way you talk about your life is exactly how it unfolds? Would you still say what you say? Would you still speak carelessly, like an unconscious rant? Thoth never needed to shout. He only spoke what was necessary, and because of that, everything he said became abracadabra, real abracadabra, the echo of a lost code. Maybe you've heard this before. Maybe you think you know this story, but one of the most powerful words ever created has been turned into a joke, stripped of meaning, thrown into children's magic shows and superficial entertainment. Yes, I'm talking about abracadabra. Today, it brings to mind a magician pulling a rabbit from a hat, but few know it comes from an ancient sacred language, Aramaic, abracadabra, literally meaning, I create as I speak. It's not a spell, it's a principle, a forgotten key of sacred language, a formula echoing the spiritual foundation shared by various initiatic cultures, including the Egyptians. Eliphas Levi, a major 19th century occultist, said abracadabra was no mere decorative word, but a symbol of spiritual geometry. In practical Kabbalah schools, it was written as an inverted triangle, losing one letter per line until only a dot remained. This symbolized creation collapsing into the center of the self, the reduction of creative energy to the core of its source, consciousness. The power lies in the language itself, in the vibration of the sound. Every sound carries a frequency, a tone, a rhythm, and an intention. All of these elements are part of a sacred formula. In the oldest spiritual traditions, from the Chaldeans and Hebrews to the Egyptians, certain sounds were chanted not to entertain, but to activate subtle dimensions of reality. Words were spoken with reverence, precision, and clear purpose. Maybe now you're beginning to see why Thoth is remembered not merely as a creator of magical formulas, but as a symbol of divine wisdom, the one who connects the unseen to the seen, the vibration that transforms intention into form, not because he invented the formulas, but because he crafted the space where they could exist. Take a moment to breathe deeply and consider how many words you speak every day without noticing. How often do you say things like, "My life is hard," "I'm never lucky," or "This will never work"? Without realizing it, you're declaring your reality, like casting an inverted spell, a reversed abracadabra. This realization shocks many people when they wake up, to see that their reality wasn't imposed from outside, but quietly shaped by their own repeated words and vibrations. That repetition molded their energy, their field, and ultimately their destiny. But now, you have the chance to change that. You can start speaking differently, not as someone forcing false affirmations, but as someone beginning to remember that speech is one of the most direct bridges between spirit and the material world. And perhaps, just maybe, that seemingly silly, almost childish word is actually a fragment of a far older system, a code of manifestation that was diluted over time, hidden within symbols scattered across cultures, yet still capable of being reawakened. What if that code is just a doorway? What if something even greater lies just beyond it? But not everyone was ready for that truth. In the ancient Egyptian texts, from the Book of Thoth to the records of the Ptolemaic period, there's a story that may seem like legend, but carries a profound message. It tells of a hidden book attributed to Thoth, kept in a chest surrounded by serpents, sealed with spells and layers of protection. Inside were two powerful spells, one to hear the speech of animals and control the skies, waters, and earth. The other, even more dangerous, to see the gods themselves. But what happened to those who touched the book before they were ready? Neferkaptor broke the seals and read the spells, and lost everything dear to him. His son and his wife died. Though he kept the book with him in his tomb, he couldn't escape the cost. Years later, Setna, tempted by power, sought the book and suffered immediately. His mind was overwhelmed by illusions, his family endangered, and his soul nearly destroyed. Do you see how serious this is? It wasn't just about a magical object. The book was symbolic, a mirror. It didn't grant power. It revealed whether the soul was prepared to hold it. If the ego was greater than awareness, the knowledge itself became a source of destruction. The lesson isn't in the spell or invocation, but in the attitude of the seeker. No wisdom survives arrogance. No sacred gift stays with one who seeks it out of vanity. This is true initiation, to be touched by mystery without being consumed by it. Perhaps this book, so desired by kings, magicians, and priests, was never a physical object at all. Maybe it represents a state of access, a certain inner vibration where hidden truths finally become clear. But for that to happen, something must break, not outside you, but within. This is where we begin to grasp Thoth's role. The observer, the recorder, the balancer, not a judge, but a mirror showing exactly what each soul is vibrating. In the Book of the Dead, Thoth appears in a famous scene. The soul is brought to the Hall of Judgment. In the center is a scale, with the feather of Maat, symbolizing cosmic truth on one side, and the heart of the deceased on the other. Thoth is the one who writes down the outcome. Here's the crucial point. This judgment doesn't begin after death. It happens now with every thought you accept as truth, every word you repeat without awareness, every emotion you nurture daily. All of this is recorded, not by a distant deity, but in your own vibrational field. The scale remains, not as punishment, but as a mirror. The reality you live is not random. It reflects what's written inside you. Life doesn't respond to what you wish for. It responds to who you are. The hardest and most freeing part of this truth is that most people try to change the external world without ever asking what they're broadcasting from within. You can say positive affirmations all day, but if your vibration is rooted in fear, anger, or scarcity, the scale doesn't lie. The judgment isn't out there. It's right here, in how you live, think, and respond. And it's not Thoth who punishes. It's the frequency you hold that determines what stays and what falls away. Manifestation is not a wish, it's tuning. This is where many get stuck. We're taught to want a car, a job, love, healing, escape. But almost no one teaches us how to tune ourselves. In Kabbalah, one of the world's oldest and deepest wisdom traditions, manifestation means something different from modern desire. To manifest isn't to force reality. It's to align with what's already true inside you. The word Kabbalah comes from the Hebrew meaning to receive. Here's the secret. You only receive what you're in tune with. Not what you beg for, not what you briefly visualize, but what pulses inside you consistently and coherently. According to the Tree of Life, the spiritual map of Kabbalah, the reality we experience is called Malkut, the kingdom. It's the densest level, matter itself. But nothing in Malkut appears from nowhere. Before something becomes real, it travels a vibrational chain, starting at Keter, the crown origin point, passing through Bina, intention structure, moving to Tiferet, the heart, emotional truth, reaching Yesod, foundation, the word as channel, and only then manifesting in Malchut. This path of creation isn't accidental. It matches what Egyptian initiates taught in rituals connected to Thoth. Nothing is created directly in matter. Everything is a process, a sequence, a journey. If coherence breaks anywhere along that chain, if intention isn't aligned with emotion, or emotion doesn't resonate with the word, the result in reality will be distorted. That's why many people wish without manifesting. What you want clashes with what you vibrate. What you think conflicts with what you feel. This inner disharmony destabilizes your vibrational field. Manifestation stalls. You don't create what you want. You create what you're ready to sustain. Reality reflects the inner structure you feed daily. So here's the question. Are you trying to manifest from the anxiety of wanting, or from the harmony of mind, emotion, intention, and presence? If things are out of sync, it doesn't matter how much you ask. What appears will always be fragmented. At this point, we come to another ancient symbol loaded with meaning, the pentagram. 5 syllables in abracadabra, 5 points, and 5 elements: earth, water, air, fire, and ether. For centuries, the pentagram symbolized protection, harmony, and the integration of elements within the self. Pythagoras regarded it as sacred geometry. Medieval alchemists saw it as a spiritual formula, but few truly grasp its meaning. It's not just a star, it's a reminder that spirit must be at the center, with the elements balanced and revolving around it. Emotions represent your memories and sensitivities. Air embodies your thoughts, ideas, and mind. Fire stands for your actions, passion, and life force. And at the very top is ether, consciousness, the unseen energy that breathes life into everything. The pentagram symbolizes you at the center of the universe, a microcosm of the whole, a living temple. But knowing this isn't enough. You must awaken it. Activation doesn't come from technique. It arises through presence. When you honor each element within yourself, nurturing your earth, purifying your water, calming your air, directing your fire, and reconnecting with your spirit, that star no longer exists outside of you, but pulses within. Even the words you speak silently become creative forces. Every structure requires a foundation, and even the pentagram needs support. Without roots, any symbol is just decoration, and any knowledge remains just an appealing idea. So now ask yourself, what grounds all these elements inside you? You're the final tablet, the message that Thoth writes. You're the last tablet. This is where many lose their way. After discovering the power of the word, the temptation is to use it recklessly, to say everything, reveal all, repeat, teach, and affirm without measure. But the ancients understood that not all truths are ready to be spoken, and the more sacred something is, the more silence it demands. In Egyptian mysteries, the sacred word was always surrounded by ritual silence, not as censorship, but as protection, not to conceal, but to preserve. Thoth, as a symbol of the intelligence that brings the invisible into form, also represents the wisdom to know when to remain silent, because before the creative word arises, there is fertile silence. Before sound, there's the space where sound will vibrate, and that space must be pure. That's why initiates took vows of silence, not from fear, but as a commitment to alignment. They knew that speech born from impatience, a restless mind, or a wounded heart creates nothing. It only confuses, dilutes, and spreads noise. But speech born from silence crosses dimensions. That is why the great masters spoke sparingly, not because they knew less, but because they knew too much to waste their words on ears unready to hear. Every word carries a cost. Every sacred word spoken consciously opens portals, portals of understanding, healing, and revelation. Thoth didn't speak to impress. He spoke to inscribe, to leave order where there had been chaos. Maybe you'll feel this now, the quiet space between understanding and transformation. The moment when something inside you realizes it's no longer about speaking what you know, but living what you have remembered. At this turning point, everything shifts. What was once a search becomes recognition. What was a path becomes a mirror. You no longer seek the Book of Thoth. You realize you have been written into that book all along. The revelation isn't in the papyrus or the stone. It's in your body, vibrating in your heart, awakening in your consciousness, aligning. You are the last tablet. You are the space where the final message is being inscribed. Thoth, as a symbol of cosmic order, left no fixed formulas, only paths. And those paths open once you understand. You no longer need to chase signs because you are the sign. You're not searching anymore. You're remembering. If this remembrance has found you now, it's because the time has come. You didn't find this video by accident. You didn't stumble on these words randomly. You didn't feel that shiver without reason. The time has come, not to manifest what you want, but to manifest who you truly are. Now that you've come this far, you might ask, so what? What can I do with all this? Because awakening without action is just another distraction, and you didn't come here just to get stuck in another pretty idea. You came to remember, integrate, and transform. So take a deep breath, and let's ground this. If one thing has become clear on this journey, it's that manifestation isn't about wanting. It's about aligning vibration. It's a state of coherence between what you think, feel, say, and live. It's not built overnight, but it can start right now with something simple. Here's a daily practice inspired by the wisdom flowing through this message. From Thoth's teachings to the structure of the tree of life. From the power of the word to the silence that precedes it. This isn't a magic formula. It's a vibrational practice. The more you repeat it consciously, the more your field will begin to shift. Before starting your day, spend 2 minutes in complete silence. No phone, no tasks. Just sit, breathe, and watch your mind. Let thoughts come and go without grabbing onto them. This space creates your inner ether, the subtle element where your words gain power. Now choose a single affirmation to repeat with presence, not just any phrase. It should reflect what you want to sustain, not just what you want to achieve. For example, my consciousness guides my reality. I only speak what I am ready to live. Or, I am one with the invisible order that holds all. Say it aloud 3 times, sitting upright, feet grounded, eyes closed. Feel the vibration of the phrase spreading through you. Next, perform a simple action with full presence. Make coffee, make your bed, light a candle. Do it as if you are writing a new line in your own book of Thoth, with intention and care. As if every gesture is recorded in the universe, because it is. Throughout the day, watch your speech, not to censor yourself, but to take responsibility. If you say something misaligned with who you want to be, pause, breathe, and say it again with coherence. You don't need to become a mystic. You just need to remember that everything you say shapes your field. And what you repeat becomes your reality. This is the hidden principle behind abracadabra, the secret of the scales, the root of true manifestation. You create as you speak, but you only manifest what you are ready to sustain. Use the word as a sacred tool. Use silence as the temple where it is born. Use your life as living proof that spirituality isn't too mystical to live. It's simple. Daily, and here, now. If you practice this for 7 days with genuine presence, you'll feel the difference. And once you feel it, you won't want to return to autopilot living, because once you've tasted the power of coherence, you'll never settle for mere survival again. So now I ask you, are you ready to live what you speak? See you in the next video.